A v krátkom čase bude tento materiál v tom európskom formáte prezentovaný v Európskom parlamente a bude sa predstavovať. Bude predstavovať Európskej únii či v Európskom parlamente. V Európarlamente. Ten materiál je k dispozícii a dá sa ale predpokladám odovzdať všetkým účastníkom. A všetky javy, ktoré som tu popisoval relatívne stručne, sú tam popisované dôsledne do detailu v 4 rôznych úrovniach možnej reakcie. A počíta sa tam s tým so zapojením vlády, samosprávy, NGO, ale aj kultúrnej obce. Lebo účinný boj proti takto vedenej vojne nie je možný bez spolupráce týchto 4 prvkov. Na webovej stránke bude táto verzia potom, ako bude oficiálne prezentovaná v priebehu týždňa dvoch. Môžete s ním už pracovať, vo štvrtok bude zoficiálnený, ale toto je teda definitívna verzia.
Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. I fully agree that the propaganda is very often seen through the scope of media propaganda, but it's a very complex issue which consists of different components here, and your presentation exactly reflects all these different angles of the problem, and the document itself is very comprehensive. And it's based on the different examples in Ukraine and Slovakia, and the situation in Slovakia was really interesting for us because it's quite how to say, unexpected circumstance. So I think that this document will be really instrumental for all of us, and thank you once again for your contribution. And now I would like to give the word to your expert. And I think it's better if we сам документ практику нічого бачимо, що ти сам не это секретарь презентация тоже будем готовить дискуссию формы догадал и посмотрим, что еще знает будет презентация. А потом будет дискуссия. Прошу.
Hello everyone, my name is Elena Aladashvili, and thank you first of all for attending this meeting. I'm going to today present to you some recommendations that I have drafted on improved communication of EU integration, including a response mechanism to increase anti-Western messaging and propaganda in Georgia. Let me a little bit talk to you about the methodology that I used to draft these recommendations. The methodology included review of the existing documentations, of course the strategy that the ministry is operating by, the strategy on EU integration, as well as the different opinion polls and assessments that a lot of NGOs are presenting and conducting. Also, in-depth review of the ministry's communication channels, social media channels, websites, and all the publicly available documentations like press releases and other documents. It also included some interviews with stakeholders, and based on that I did mapping and several recommendations. My document will be mainly based on recommendations, not the assessment, although I have included the introduction part in my report. The recommendations are presented in two sets. First covers the general recommendations on strategy document, and the second one is recommendations for improved communication process, including the response mechanism and increased anti-Western propaganda in Georgia. My purpose of drafting these recommendations was actually to analyze the situation, analyze the communications process, and suggest some practical recommendations that the ministry or the other interested parties could actually use on how to improve the communication process and the EU integration process. I know that communications is a very, very difficult task, and especially communicating the EU integration to the entire country is a very, very complex and difficult issue. So my recommendations would suggest how to improve this a little bit. Lately in Georgia, we have seen a very big and increased anti-Western propaganda, and as we could observe from our Slovak colleagues' presentation, this is not just in Georgia, and that other countries have also experienced this. Lately, the propaganda has also extended to social media channels, and personally, I had a lot of cases when I manage a US-funded program page on Facebook, and anytime we are posting something that the program is, the US-funded program did something, just exactly 2 or 3 minutes, there is a comment that we don't need US, we don't need West, you are ruining our traditions and things like that. So this trend is really, really increasing. And this is also shown in a lot of reports, media monitoring reports, and other assessments. I did not actually assess the situation and suggested recommendations only on anti-Western propaganda, because this is a complex issue and they are interconnected, and well-informed citizens and objectively communicated and increased knowledge on EU integration actually equals to citizens who do not listen to this or do not so so delete the myths and incorrect information that is spread about the EU integration. Let me go back to the recommendations. I will start with the recommendations on the strategy document. The first recommendation was the regular update of the communication strategy. The communication strategy was approved by the government of Georgia in 2013 and covers the 2014 to 2017 time period. The strategy document does not reflect a lot of current developments, including the anti-Western propaganda, so-called how to deal with the increased anti-Western propaganda issues. So my first recommendation would be to definitely include the oversight mechanism in the strategy document, because the world that we live nowadays changes rapidly. Not only the situation, overall situation changes, but political, social, but also communication channels, the technology develops, and regular communication strategists need regular updates. So usually communication strategists have a mechanism in it on how to update it, and it will be good if one person will be assigned, usually it's a communications director, to update the strategy, to present the update of the strategy, and the update should be based on the assessments and opinion polls and surveys that are presented, and of course it should involve different stakeholders like government, civil society, and other interested groups. Regular update of the strategy is really necessary also in terms of communication channels, because there are newer and improved communication channels offered, and social media is getting more and more important. So I know that the ministry, when we discussed it, is working on the new strategy already, which is very good, and I would recommend to have the update mechanism, the review mechanism of the strategy in the new strategy as well. The second recommendation was the informative and structured work plans, where activities are grouped according to the main objectives of the strategy. Although I should mention that although the strategy hasn't been updated, but the ministry presents annual work plans and conducts, which has a lot of activities in it which are conducted or planned to be conducted. The work plans are quite informative, but they are not grouped according to the objectives of the strategy. So my recommendation would be to structure them according to certain objectives, because when the activities are actually grouped within the objectives, it's much easier to monitor the process and see if the certain objective was met or not. Actually, the table that I suggested was objective 1, activity 1 under objective 1, activities that are implemented under certain objective could follow the within the objective, and then target audience communication channels take place. A lot of times ministry presents also the implementing entity or institution that implements this activity, and then also mention expected results. What are the expected results of these activities? This will really improve the effectiveness of communication, and will make the evaluation and monitoring process easy. The third recommendation was improved coordination. Currently, as we could see, we are sitting on this table today, and there is a lot of coordination going on, and the ministry, as I was told, has 3 platforms created for communication. It's a government platform among government institutions, among regional institutions, and among the civil society advisory council. But I would also recommend to have a platform where all these 3 councils actually interact with each other, and it is also very important that this council's role should be to present the progress that has been achieved within each platform, and discuss the future plans. A lot of times, for example, international organizations and donor organizations fund the projects, and this type of coordination really helps to identify where the needs are. Sometimes the projects and objectives activities are duplicated. So this type of activities also encourages like joint projects. Therefore, the cross-platform coordination would be also very important. Disciplined messages, a lot of times we'll hear that not a lot of times the government institutions, different government institutions convey the disciplined messages about the EU integration. I know that it's very, very hard, it's not easy to manage this process, but there could be some mechanism created to manage that the disciplined messages are conveyed from different government institutions on EU integration. Regular monitoring and evaluation. I did touch the monitoring and evaluation slightly when discussing the strategy. This is very, very important because one important thing is to conduct the activity. The second important thing is to actually evaluate how effective this activity really was. Were the objectives met? Were the results met? So the strategy mentions that the monitoring and evaluation should be done by the Parliament of Georgia, but I was not able to find any monitoring or evaluation report. So this is also very important to have the monitoring and evaluation, maybe even separate document for monitoring and evaluation. And very important thing is also, of course, to agree on the indicators, to how to measure success, how to measure progress. Is progress actually the level of informed citizens, or is progress actually the number of citizens who support the EU integration? These are very different things, so, and there is not always a common approach to this. So it is very important to first agree, and of course all the parties should be represented in this, the government, the civil society, media, other interested stakeholders, and agree what is the success, how to evaluate the success of the integration communications process, and of course then set the indicators for this evaluation process. Staff capacity assessment and training plan is also very important because unfortunately the government of course does not have a very big resources to conduct or like a very good big human and as well as monetary resources. So a lot of donor organizations would help to assess the staff capacity and offer the training plan. I know that a lot of trainings are implemented currently, and the strategy does mention the trainings in increased EU integration awareness, but trainings like conducting a professional reporting, professional work plan writing, for example, increased strategic communication on how to involve new technologies in communication process, how to make the contact more interesting. This type of trainings could be also very helpful because currently in the era of new technologies we do have a lot of resources and sources that we could use in order to make contact more interesting for the population and choose the correct, for example, social media platforms and increase the awareness of population. Because unfortunately nowadays, if you don't suggest the interesting content to population, they receive so much information that they are going to just go and watch Game of Thrones and not your EU integration program or something like that. So conveying interesting messages is very interesting, visualized information is very important. Diversification of communication channels also goes close to the same actually recommendation, and increased use of new technologies in delivering key messages and information, including visualization tools. For example, nowadays a lot of us don't receive information from websites, right? We just open our smartphones and we receive information from smartphones. Not all of us have time to actually go and search for information on the websites even. A lot of people switch to receiving information not from the mainstream media but from social media. So there are a lot of very, very interesting young students who study STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, and math subjects. So there could be more competitions for them, for example, to create some applications like mobile apps and to create some kind of like interesting social media campaigns for them. So to create a more visualized content. For example, there is a very interesting NGO called Jumpstart who works in Georgia in this regard on how to visualize the information like reports or assessments, and it's, they do a very interesting job. So my recommendation would be to make the information more interesting for population by using new technologies, and of course diversification of communication channels. Only website and Facebook is not going to do right for you anymore. Now the new social media platforms are introduced, and Snapchat is getting very popular. So, and the good thing is it's all free. I mean, you can just go and do it for free. And also social media advertising in Georgia is very cheap and inexpensive. Improved and increased use of web and social media platforms. I think that the strategy should include a separate social media strategy, which is done by a lot of organizations. Currently, when this communication strategy is created, it definitely includes the social media strategy. First, it increases the participation of youth, because also the monitoring reports say that 49% of Georgian youth actually get their political and social news from the, for example, social media, mainly Facebook. I have reviewed the ministry's web and Facebook channels, and mainly what I have noticed was that these platforms are used mainly for reporting purposes rather than communicating the content. So it mainly reports on what has the ministry done, on the meetings, on the events, and but does not really communicate the information and content to the public. So I would recommend to also include this type of posts and interesting content, educational posts on the web and social media platforms. Increase public participation in decision-making process. Not only deliver information to the public, but also increase their participation in communication process. And this can be done by opening channels for them to ask questions. For example, I had in my recommendations one of the activities like Ask the Minister, for example, and where population could ask the questions to the minister. There are also a lot of different very, very successful examples used in different Western countries that really increases the participation of population in decision-making process, in communication process, and the meetings with the population are really, really important, but also some activities should be offered to make population somehow to integrate in the process. And this is not easy. I mean, you really, really need to come up with interesting activities to make them part of the processes. We have heard lessons that people are interested in going to elections to vote. A special strategy to raise the awareness of ethnic minorities. I could not put aside this recommendation because all the reports say that ethnic minorities are the groups that actually are less informed about the ongoing EU integration and are less supportive to the EU integration process. And we know that the ministry does a lot of meetings in their local languages and they print a lot of publications, but also in terms of the fact that they do not have access to a lot of media content in their own language, and they mainly listen to Russian TV channels that are direct subject of Russian propaganda and anti-Western propaganda. Some more offered to them to actually raise their awareness on EU and EU integration, and most importantly, EU values. One of my recommendations in the document was to actually create the Russian-speaking channel, because we do have a lot of minorities in the country and they need to get objective information. And if not the special channel, then at least the programs, at least on the Georgian national broadcaster. There were the news programs in Russian, Armenian, Azeri, Ossetian, and Abkhazian languages offered on the Georgian public broadcaster, but somehow the Georgian public broadcaster decided to move it on the second channel, which doesn't have any ratings. So I think this is very important to take care of this issue, and also offer those videos or phone materials that will be produced by the ministry or other NGOs to make those available, or make subtitles in the minorities languages. And last but not least, the response mechanism to increase anti-European propaganda. As we talked, the propaganda is getting more and more smart. The messages conveyed are very, very targeted to the audience, and it's mainly conveyed through media, through some political parties, and also, as I said, it's increasing on the social media as well, and definitely they want more involvement of the youth in this, because usually youth is the biggest, most of the youth support EU integration in Georgia. What can we do? The very good job is done by NGOs in Georgia by monitoring the media and actually identifying the myths that are existent, and but we need more talks, discussions on these myths, and more proactive approach on how to increase population's reaction to it. Also, it is very important that those media outlets will actually consistently carry this propaganda, because there are several that always, like 70% of their media coverage content is propaganda, anti-Western propaganda, should be identified, and there should be discussions on media ethics and journalism standards, and why it is important, and what are the journalism standards in media ethics, what is the role of all this in the democratic development. Increased public awareness for democratic values is also very important in this regard. Sharing the success stories is very important, because this is an example of how some other country, for example, or some other farmer achieved a success. And in communications, it really works because it sets an example of, and it's very personalized. For example, we were discussing this series of programs on Ruskavitu in PS, which had probably a very, very positive impact on the population in this regard, because it shared the success stories of different farmers, different, for example, environmental cases in different countries. Of course, all this information should be, as I mentioned, available for ethnic minorities in their own languages. This is very briefly about the sets of recommendations that are included in my report. I did not have the time to actually offer a very, very in-depth test research, but this is what I have formulated within the time period that I was given. We can open a floor for discussion, for further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for indeed very interesting presentation. And I think both presentation will create this platform, and wish you success in the future. It's really a very important project. Thank you once again.
we can review what we heard already and start discussing this and maybe offer each other ideas, exchange ideas, and think, or maybe create new ideas and bring it on the paper. Eventually start now and then continue cooperation on this specific and very, very crucial and vital to our countries issues, like how to fight anti-Western propaganda. And we discovered here that even Slovakia is in, and Czech Republic is in trouble in this term. So my personal point of view is that it would be great if our country's establishment, of political establishment in my country would share, would adopt, would not maybe copy-paste what your country's designed on combating this very difficult problem, and learn from that and assemble their own very concrete plan how to work very thoroughly, very precise, straight to the point, straight to the issue, and elaborate very, very effective tools, working plan, the same as you have. So what do you think, colleagues, and what's your ideas, and where are we now, what do you think, and what can be done? Please, Nina, from Rustavi too.
First of all, I would like to thank you for a very informative report. Unfortunately, what you mentioned, we see the signs of this campaign starting in Georgia. Because lately we have witnessed the neo-fascistic movements, attacking people who are different. And this is all a very troubling symptomatics, so I believe that something should be done in order to stop it at this stage, because if it is encouraged, it may develop and continue to develop. I believe that all the recommendations that we have seen are very useful, but in our case, the problem is not the recommendations, but how they are implemented. And what I see today is that there is not enough reaction from the state authorities on these type of violations and on violence. So if the state authorities do not respond properly to all kinds of violations, violence against people who are different, then I believe no matter what kind of recommendations we present, this process will continue and it will be impossible to stop it. But I have one question to you. I know that in the Slovak Republic there was a huge problem with an attempt of the government, it was in the past, to close down a private TV. We are now, I represent the TV that is encountering the same problem. Could you please tell me how it started and how it finished in the Slovak Republic? ცდილობა იყოს slobodetში და კრიტიკული ტელევიზიის დაფუძნების ცდილობა არის საქართველოში და
არა, ამდენი არ არის საჭირო, გავიგე, უბრალოდ ვიკითხე, რომელსაც ეხებოდი. მე არ გეჩხუბებით, მე უბრალოდ ერთი დავაგრძელე და ამას მოყვა დისკუსია. Že kritická televízia bude aj na Slovensku, aj v Budensku, aj
Ja som 2 dní dozadu videl premiéra Slovenskej republiky vo verejnoprávnej televízii rozčúlene vyhlásiť, že je protivládny.
Že tu dáme s tým na kreslo, keď premiér ministrov komisári z Sachancov Kusácina do televízia.
Boli na Slovensku časy v 90. rokoch, kedy bola tendencia zakázať alebo obmedziť alebo nejakým spôsobom ovládnuť vysielanie privátnych televízií.
Je postavil, keď ešte konzultácia zlepšila, da sa svojgáku spôsobne televízie.
Ale našťastie v tomto čase neexistuje na Slovensku dostatočná politická odvaha na to, aby sa niekto pokusil priamo zasahovať do vysielania.
Adam sa neroznám, čo Slovakia čára, že to bude získávať reformu, jednom pirka, šedúce čajrius,
To je tá dobrá časť tej správy.
Ezaris aj ambis aginácie.
Negatívna časť správy je, že nový televízny kanál, ktorý úplne otvorene bojuje proti systému demokracii a je otvorene proruský a proputinovský, dostal licenciu na vysielanie.
Súdia bavili s istrom archírom, rezáres v Vezadgamu Fatulat, prorusuli da Putini s Hardančeri dajú mi po licenciách na Ostaglobazách.
A začína sa dostávať do súboru štandardných káblových operátorov.
Tam sa kapela operátorov
V posledných rokoch som nezachytil, že by ktorýkoľvek politik si trúfol nejak zasahovať významne do existencie alebo vysielania štátnej alebo súkromnej televízie.
Politik tam vašia sú všetko, že politikov sa začali uľúbo, keď to televízii sme odsvedli postaviť.
Hoci by to veľmi radi urobili, ale ešte taká istá politická kultúra na Slovensku im to nedovolí.
Ama si ja nebyť tak, keď ten background už keď politickú kultúru, aby sa šlo postaviť.
Neviem, či to je dostatočné.
Maricia, sad Maricia.
Ja som ešte na vás chcel zareagovať, že tento program, tento materiál a ten materiál naozaj sú analýzou a sú doporučeniami, ale rozhodujúce pre úspech je to, či sa podarí tá implementácia a ten výkon. To znamená, že tento materiál dostať do reálneho výkonu a života spoločnosti.
Es masāvāri rekomendācija vidam pravāri atēdā nārīcīs, varbūt mohteba misi nāportsība vadāru, kur mohteba misi skorībaši reālupaši.
Čiže my vieme veľmi dobre analyzovať situáciu, vieme sa takto stretnúť v týchto pracovných skupín v rôznych krajinách.
Kāda mēs no šie esat šie potreby da analīzes padaspečku pevšiem?
Ale v okamihu, kedy má dojsť na implementáciu a na uvedenie do života týchto opatrení, tak tam už je to problém.
Agrám rody sa caknújem, lebo am skorībaši bankorcīrības mašīny to bolo problém.
Čiže ak je vo vašich silách pokúsiť sa naozaj o implementáciu a o to, aby začali tie doporučenia tieto alebo tamtie fungovať, musí dojsť k reálnej spolupráci medzi
Istrom penšet sú tam rekomendácie, vystrialu da bankorcīrības.
A na to by som sústredil maximálnu energiu a pozornosť na sledujúcom času.
Amas býva chcete povedať, že úradná da povedať, že energia samo sme usmašili. Čo môže sa opýtať?
ეს რეკომენდაციები არის ხალხი თემა, რომელსაც წარუდგენს არასამთავრობო სექტორი ქაულა.
Že to doporučenie, to je taká téma, že ktorú proste predloží mimovládna organizácia vláde. Že to je správne?
Mimovládna organizácia sa podievala na tvorbe, ale väčšinu obsahu tvorili profesionáli zo štátnych zložiek.
A na cieľu მხოლოდ მან ახსენა, რომ ამის შექმნაში მონაწილეობდნენ შინაგან სამქმეთა და დაზვერვა და არასამთავრობო.
Je to preto, lebo existujúca politická situácia, opakované voľby, zmeny vlád v Európe znemožňujú, aby funkčne toto implementoval iba štát.
შექმნილი სიტუაციის სწავლობების ცვლილება შესაძლებლობას არ იძლევა, რომ ეს განახორციელოს მხოლოდ სახელმწიფო.
A preto tretí sektor je menej náchylný na zmenu systému a politickej reprezentácie.
მესამე სექტორი უფრო ნაკლებად არის მგრძნობია პოლიტიკური სიტუაციის ცვლილებაზე.
Čiže vládne organizácie obsahujú množstvo kvalitných odborníkov, ktorí vedia taký materiál vypracovať.
სამთავრობო ორგანიზაციებს ძალიან ბევრი სპეციალისტები, რომელსაც შეუძლიათ ასეთი მასალის, ასეთი დოკუმენტების შექმნა.
Ale implementácia nebude fungovať, pokiaľ bude ťažisko iba na vláde a vládnych organizáciách, lebo tie sú závislé od cirkulácie, od politických.
მაგრამ განხორციელება არასამთავრობოების გარეშე შეუძლებელი არის, იმიტომ
რომ დავაზუსტო, ანუ რაღაც ძალოვანი სტრუქტურები ორი სახელმწიფოს მონაწილეობდნენ მის შემუშავებაში. ჩეხეთი და სლოვაკეთი. ჩეხეთის მონაწილეობდა.
spolupracovali dve krajiny, Česko a Slovensko.
Spolupracovali odborníci z dvoch krajín, ale ide o český materiál.
Aber შინაგან საქმეთა
že ste spomínali, že ono sa posed ministerstvo vnútorných vecí a ešte
Ministerstvo zahraničia, ministerstvo vnútra.
შინაგან საქმეთა სამინისტრო, საგარეო საქმეთა სამინისტრო,
tri spravodajské služby,
სამი სამსახური, ის რა სადაზვერვო,
vojenská rozviedka,
სხვადასხვა ტიპები.
aj množstvo nezávislých analytikov.
და ბევრი დამოუკიდებელი
ეს არის joint ერთობლივი ნამუშევარი დასაბუთებული და არსებული მოქმედი ხელისუფლებები.
To spolupráca vládnych organizácií a mimovládnych organizácií. Tento dokument vypracovali spoločne.
Tento dokument vypracovali spoločne, ale jeho nositeľom vo vzťahu k jednotlivým parlamentom a vládam je mimovládna organizácia.
მაგრამ მისი მატარებელი სხვა მთავრობებისთან დაკავშირებით არის არასამთავრობო ორგანიზაცია.
ეს გამომტანი
შუა ხო
ეხლა ბოლო ისიც ვითხარი თუ შეიძლება რა ეტაპზე არის ანუ პარლამენტში უნდა მოსმენა მოხდეს ანუ ხო კანონი უნდა მიიღო და სავალდებულო უნდა
с тем что строит
bude oficiálne prezentovaný tento materiál. On vznikal vlastne a na jeho základe vzniká česká stratégia pre boj s... Tu musím povedať, že na Slovensku prebiehajú naozaj tiež intenzívne aktivity, ktorých účastníkmi sú aj jednotliví úradníci, ale nie úradní.
Slovakiečიც მიმდინარეობს გასცი საქმიანობები, მაგრამ არა ცალკეული დაწესებულებების, არამედ ცალკეული დაწესებულებების მოხდების და თანამშრომლობის.
Česká republika je o krok ďalej v tomto.
Čechetská republika ერთი ნაბიჯით წინ არის ჩვენს
lebo vytvorila takú vlastnú skupinu, ktorá sebe obsahuje aj mimovládne organizácie, aj štátne organizácie.
შექმნა ესეთი ჯგუფი, რომელიც მოიცავს როგორც სამთავრობო, ისე არასამთავრობო.
Pôsobí, myslím, v gestii ministerstva vnútra.
მუშაობს რანც ministerstvo vnútra, შინაგან საქმეთა სამინისტროს კადრებში გვარცდები.
A má právomoci aj silný vplyv na politikov a parlament.
და აქ უფლებამოსილება და დიდი გავლენა პარლამენტარებს.
A ukazuje sa to ako životaschopný formát.
და როგორც ჩანს, ეს არის საკმაოდ სიცოცხლისუნარიანი რეფორმები. თქვენი კითხვა ვერ გაგდავს, იმიტომ რომ თვითონ განარდა და თქვენ გიგდოდა ტრანსფორმული სიტუაციაში. ეს ხდება ჩეხეთში. რომ დამტკიცებენ კანონის პროგრესს. რა ძალა ექნება, რა სავალდებულო ძალა ექნება, რა სავალდებულო ექნება. Że na zaczątku zapytała Konstytucyjna Inwestycja, że ako to bude mať silu zákona?
Bude to plánna stratégia pre boj s ruskou propagandou.
Ezekného zákon to stratégia Rusetancina.
Čiže vláda...
Propagandistina oficiálnu stratégiu.
Vláda príjme oficiálnu stratégiu a požiada o podporu parlament.
Თავრობა მიენაჩურო სტრატეგიას და სპორტ თავრობას დახმარებას აფასებს.
Existujú dve verzie, jedna je vyslovene špecializovaná na Česko, ale tá, ktorú tu je použiteľná pre každý štát, ktorý sa cíti byť demokratický. Lebo existuje množstvo metód, ktorými by sa dala eliminovať táto propaganda efektívne. Ale sú mimo rámca demokratického riadenia. Čo by bola hlavná zbraň?
Nebudem slúžať počet to dôležité. Zároveň som občanov, ktoré vyšlo tam dokumenty tak rozšíriť.
Že to sa rozhodol urobil ohľadom toho dokumentu.
Da SO2 programoval vysunul za tu sarka intereset.
Aj, treba mi to. შეგვიძლია ნოემბერზე გამოგზავნოთ თქვენ კომენტარებთან ძალიან კარგი იქნება, რასაც საერთოდ მოგივიდათ მოწვევა. ამ გარდა პროექტებზეც არის მოხდებული ჩვენი საკონტრაქტო ინფორმაცია და შეგვიძლია
Lebo viem, že vypracovatelia tohto materiálu veľmi proaktívne komunikujú.
Ამას არის შემქმნელები ძალიან აქტიურად ახდენენ კომუნიკაციებს და ინტერესებს. შეიძლება რომ ამბობთ ჰარდკოპიო
Nemám sebou výtlačky, ale v tom počítači sú tie dáta. Takže každý účastník môže si... Tento... Toto je 50 bodov, to je to, čo tak máte hardcopy.
ეს დოკუმენტები გვაქვს ელექტრონულად ყველანი ნაწილს დაგეგზავნებათ იმეილზე როგორც თვითონ ეს რეკომენდაციები ელენეს მიერ მომზადებული, ასევე რადოვანის მიერ ბატონო.
ელენეს გაგზავნილი.
გაგზავნილია ასევე რადოვანის დოკუმენტები, უცნობ ასევე პრეზენტაციებს, ყველა დოკუმენტი დაეგზავნება და რომ მოგივათ შეგვიძლიათ საპასუხოდ თქვენ წერილობით კომენტარებით მოგვაწოდოთ.
და რადოვანს მეილებით გვაქვს დასაკვირვებელი.
ეს დოკუმენტი რომ დასრულდება, მე ეს არის თავის წარმომადგენლები არის.
სტრატეგიული კომუნიკაციის დეპარტამენტი და ეს დოკუმენტები ქართულება ქართულად საბოლოო ვარიანტის პროგრამული კომენტარებს, ყველას კომენტარები ჩასწორდება ელენე მოახდენს მათ ქართულად წინებას დოკუმენტში. საბოლოო ვერსია ითარგმნება ქართულად, წარდგება სახელმწიფო უწყებას შესაბამის სტრატეგიული კომუნიკაციის დეპარტამენტის ministris აპარატს. წინა რეკომენდაციების, რომელიც წინა სამუშაო ჯგუფის პარტნიორში იქნა შემუშავებული, უკვე წარდგენილია სახელმწიფო ministris აპარატისთვის, ეს სადღაც მაისის თვეში გავაზარდ, ხოლო იქნება. ჩვენ შეგვიძლია ამის ამ თემაზე მომავალი შეხვედრა სამუშაოების სტრატეგიულ კომუნიკაციაზე უკვე ერთ-ერთი ეჯენდაში ჩავწეროთ უკვე როგორც ერთ-ერთი პუნქტი იმისა, თუ რა ბედი ეწია ამ რეკომენდაციებს. პრინციპში ერთ-ერთი რეკომენდაცია ალბათ შეიძლება იყო განხორციელებული, ყოველ შემთხვევაში ახლა მუშაობენ ამ სტრატეგიაზე. იმავე ახალ სტრატეგია შეგვიძლია რამდენად გაგვეცნები იქნება ესეთი კაპასიტეტი გასვით გონძებ და ერთი თანხებთან არის რეალური მიიღოს რაღაც რეზულტატი ამ პროექტმა, ამაზე